Hello, Ms. Gleaton and other members of Leadership Selection. I'd first just like to thank you for the opportunity to become part of TCHS Band Leadership. So the first question is, who is one person in band leadership who I admire, and why do I admire them? One person that I've really admired since my freshman year is Jasmine Carbajal, because first, she was my freshman year drum major. So just watching her conduct, which is something that I've always been really interested in, has been really eye-opening because she's just very, very good at conveying emotion through the way that she conducts. I also like the way that she really takes initiative and gets the band together when the band needs to get together. And she's very good at drawing people's attention during football games. And she's just overall a very good leadership member. Moving on to question 2, what was my biggest frustration with leadership last year and how would I change that? Well, my biggest frustration with leadership last year was the lack of communication between leadership and the band. Because it seemed like leadership, and I've heard this from other people too, is that it seemed like the leadership would just do things with no communication of why they would be doing things. One specific example that I've heard a lot from because my friends were involved was the whole spatula situation. And they just felt really, they felt cheated in a way. From an outside perspective, I couldn't really have an opinion, but they felt cheated in a way because there was just no communication of why they got in trouble for the spatula ordeal. So that's one of the main things that I'd want to change, is that I'd want to build a communication between leadership and the entirety of the band. Question 3, ineffective causes to reaction. So one way that leadership member Sierra Heflin tried to get the band together and quiet down, in my opinion and many other opinions, was very passive-aggressive. But when Jasmine Carbajal, for example, was just direct with the band and strictly said that we need to calm down, get focused, and get ready, that was much more effective. So being less passive-aggressive in the ways that you convey what you want to get done and just being direct with the band, especially since you're in a position of power, using that power responsibly would be a better way of communicating to the band what you want to get done. So, yes. So question 4, how would you adjust your leadership abilities to meet the needs of the group? So I always believe that firm communication between leadership and the band, just in any relationship between one party and another, is key. So communication is key to build that relationship and to ultimately be the most successful that you can be. So just addressing things that the band thinks needs to be done and combining it with the things that I think the band needs to get done would ultimately allow me to adjust the way that I lead. So let's say, for example, that the band is playing really, really well. Like, they have their music down and they have everything done. But the marching isn't as good as it could be. So I'd pull aside section leaders, say, hey, I'm up on the podium, the marching isn't looking as good, but the music sounds really good, so can you focus more on marching instead of playing? Or vice versa, where the marching was looking really good, everyone had really good fundamentals, but the playing wasn't as good. So can you focus on memorization and dynamics and stuff like that inside of your sectionals? So that's what I do as drum major. And then as in any other position, I just focus on that stuff on a more individual level. But yeah, that's the general gist of how I'd adjust. Question 5, I see someone doing something not appropriate that sheds TCHS in a bad light at a band event or just any event. What should I do? So if I see that, of course, I'm going to go and try to stop that, because as a person in leadership, you want to lead those people who are doing things that aren't necessarily representing TCHS in a good light, and you want to lead them out of that situation. So I'm more of a one strike, you're out type of person. So if I catch them and then I tell them to stop, and then they stop, it's done with. Like, the problem's over. But if I see them doing it again, then I'm probably gonna have to communicate with someone higher up in the leadership chain, so that necessary action can be reprimanded. But that's what needs to happen, is that once they stop, they stop. If not, then I need to bring in another leadership member. If not me, then who? Question 6. So I am going for the spot of drum major, And I personally think that drum majors need to be able to lead people most out of any of the other leadership positions. So people who are good at drawing attention to themselves, being very charismatic, would be very good for that position. And now personally, I think that Bryce Smith would be a very great choice. He's very good at drawing people's attention. I've watched him conduct. He's very good at conducting. And he's just very good at getting people's attention. The only thing that deters me from getting Bryce in that position is that he's our primary trumpet player, in that he is very loud, very, very good at playing. He has very good tone. And he leads the trumpet section. Another member that I think would be good for drum major is really anyone who just stays after practice and puts in the work and puts stuff away and anything like that. Because that shows real dedication to the band, which is another thing that I think we should value in our drum major positions, is that they actually care about the program. Yeah. Question 7, as a leader, how would I make rehearsals more productive? Well, one of the main problems I see within the leadership band dichotomy is a lack of respect between the band and leadership and band. And that's mostly because there's a very big rift between the two parties, because I've seen that the people who are friends with the people in leadership listen to them more than not. So just building a relationship with the people in the band will help the rehearsals run more smoothly, because being a leadership member of someone that you're friends with, people are more inclined to listen to people they're friends with, because the friends have a natural mutual respect for each other. So just building up relationships with the entirety of the band will help. Question 8, introduction of virtual learning into the summer and into in-person learning next year. Well, personally for me, Smart Music has been a very good way of getting out of bed and just starting to practice, because it's a fun way to start practicing. It's lots of good basic stuff that we can get done. Mostly for me, I very quickly get bored of the stuff that I play, even if I haven't perfected it yet. So what Smart Music does is it keeps it interesting by adding in the accompaniment, which is also something that I struggle with. Is I have a hard time getting the fuller picture of where my place is in the band through individual practice. So just the sheer amount of stuff that I can do on Smart Music, along with the accompaniment system that keeps it interesting, helps. So continuation of Smart Music through next year could also help. As well as, now that people know how to record band assignments, we could also do recordings at home for homework assignments or other things like that. Again, I'd just like to thank the Leadership Selection Committee, and I'd just like to thank all of you for the opportunity. I hope I get to work with you guys next year in TCHS Band Leadership. Thank you very much.